Milepost 2, Gateway 3, the Gateway of Charity. The counterfeit. I saw my own potential and was attempting to make things better by taking ownership of my position. My supervisor forbade me from even communicating my desires to help the team succeed. In that business culture, it was not my place to force change. I had one task, but to do my best, I felt I had to overstep my bounds. The counterfeit of the Gateway of Charity is that for me to be fulfilling my potential, I have to help others be their best. It is my duty to make sure that others are successful, even if it costs me my own authenticity. The truth. Charity is the pure love of Christ. I see myself and others through the eyes of God. I recognize their divine genius, and I recognize my own divine genius. I serve in the way I best contribute, and I expect others to serve in the way they best contribute. I offer my value in places where it is received and appreciated, and I do not tolerate remaining in a space where I am not allowed to contribute my best. I seek out others who have value that I appreciate. We each are given space to create authentically within our own gifts, and we build a complete team of individual talent. The counterfeit is a lose-lose. Both the creator and the one supporting the creation miss the value that could be exchanged. Both sacrifice what they could receive if it were a perfect fit. The truth is a win-win. Both receive more than they give, and they rise together. My assessment. I am creating in a place that is out of alignment with my values and core beliefs. I accept the first management position that comes along because I am desperate. Then I remain at a job that is fundamentally wrong for me because I have turned inward on myself. I am looking for the reason I am not being successful rather than recognizing that neither I nor my supervisors have charity. It becomes an inner game. I make the decision that I am a disappointment rather than life or my job is a disappointment. It is not my circumstances that are bad. It is me that is bad. I do not have charity for myself. Remember, the lesson is never, I am not good enough. If you are choosing the lesson that you are not good enough, don't worry, you will get another chance with another equally disappointing experience until you choose the right lesson. My lesson should have been, I don't belong here, I don't fit. My natural leadership style is to find the good in people and help them excel within their natural gifts. I encourage them to take ownership of their responsibilities individually and work together as a team. I'm out of alignment with the way this particular company is run. In trying to be me, I cause friction in the following ways. Number 1, I make the other managers look bad. Employees begin requesting to be moved to my area. Those in my department are the only happy people in the entire company. It becomes critical that I be shut down to avoid an uprising. I really am making a difference, but not the kind that would be tolerated in a company that relies on fear to gain employee loyalty. Number 2, I don't need a supervisor. We were capable of working well independently. In a fear-based environment, it is absolutely necessary that everyone knows what everyone else is doing. Since I don't need to be motivated to do a good job, micromanaging is introduced so that there are constant checks and balances. I don't do well conforming to the normal system, so the fear is turned back on the one who is out of alignment with the system. Their fear can only be resolved by eliminating the enemy, me. Entering the gateway of charity. Society's definition of charity comes from the counterfeit that neither I nor you is inherently valuable. It comes from the belief that we are all flawed in some way and need to be fixed. Somewhere along the way, there is a decision that I have more, so I should give to those less abundant. You have more, so you should give of your abundance to me. There is a decision that someone is less than. Add to that our desire to follow our perfect example, Jesus Christ, in his ministry. The counterfeit here is that we must be the Savior. The truth is that Jesus Christ saw himself through God's eyes and knew the contribution he could make. If you really study Christ's miracles, you will find that he passed many people by. Even when he was petitioned, he asked, "Do you have the faith to be healed?" He qualified the recipient before he offered his gift, and so should we. Moroni 7:47 in the Book of Mormon says, "But charity is the pure love of Christ, and it endureth forever. And whoso is found possessed of it at the last day, it shall be well with him." It has been said that charity is the pure love of Christ, the pure love that he has for each individual soul. To see ourselves through his eyes is to see infinite worth and value. This is the true definition of charity, to see within ourselves and in others the vitally important worth and value we are capable of contributing. If we try to give from our own abundance, it will eventually be depleted. If we give from the pure love of Christ, whose abundance is described as living water that is ever flowing, the source is limitless. The only reason we would give of our abundance to another would be when we discern, as Christ did, that our own contribution would be received, appreciated, and valued equal to the value Christ places on it. The only reason we would ask another to contribute their abundance would be when we discern that their value is vitally important to our own creation. In this way, exchanging value within the truth of charity, both are lifted and increased together through the infinite source of abundance. There is a realization that we all come to at some point on our path. I cannot do it all alone. We all learn that in order to influence those around us and realize our full potential, we need others to be involved in our process. We need synergy. Synergy is chemistry. Combining the right amounts of individual genius produces exponential results that could not be created separately. Leverage becomes love. Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, has been quoted as saying, "Synergy is the highest activity of life. It creates new, untapped alternatives. It values and exploits the mental, emotional, and psychological differences between people." Dr. Stephen R. Covey also said, "Synergy is not the same as compromise. In a compromise, 1 + 1 = 1.5 at best." The word exploit caught my attention in the above quote by Stephen Covey. I believe most people give this word a negative connotation. Conversely, many people would assign a positive connotation to the word synergy. How can one be used to describe the other if one is negative and the other positive? I'm going to explain by giving you a lesson in opposition. Originally, when I received the Gateway of Charity, I called it the Gateway of Leverage, a word that could be perceived as negative when associated with utilizing other people and resources. As this gateway evolved, I saw an interesting connection between leverage and love, which I now refer to as charity. I asked more questions and received more information, and I now understand on a deeper level what true charity means and how it works as leverage. Leveraging others' skills and talents is true charity. Let me explain my thinking. In including others in our goals and achievements, they bring their time, talents, efforts, and insights to our creative process. The gifts they offer save us trial and possibly more error than is necessary. Each of us is uniquely gifted, but we are also each lacking in some way. We are lacking in a gift that has been mastered by another. My husband and I are a great team because he is solid and stalwart with our financial game plan, and I believe anything is possible. I alone would probably be bankrupt. He alone would be bored with life. We might both achieve financial independence eventually, but together we arrive at our destination faster and with the least amount of bruises. All the while, we feel extreme gratitude for one another's strengths that have helped us reach our goals. Alone, I cannot possibly have everything necessary to complete a project in the most efficient and worthwhile way. Of course, I can do it all myself and do a fine job, but if I combine the strengths of others with my own, no energy is wasted. More perspectives are seen. Life is more interesting because there are more personalities to mix things up. Ultimately, everyone benefits. By asking others to step in with their gifts and give their all, I am leveraging them for my benefit and theirs. Leverage can sometimes be viewed as a negative. An example of a counterfeit of leverage when it comes to people is when a boss tells his or her employee to work for the employer's success, and the employee is only getting a paycheck out of it. Similar to my experience shared above, this management style produces employees that lack drive and self-worth. It is a destructive way of utilizing the valuable principle of leverage. Remember, in the Gateway of Abundance, we learned that we are enough and we have value. The words may be different, but many times I observe people behaving in this way with their kids, their coworkers, their spouse, or their clients. Even if the words aren't spoken, the energy is that of only tolerating people for the sake of getting ahead or building your own dream. The type of leverage that is created from this approach is more like manipulation. You can definitely have huge success when you use others to help you become wealthy and successful. But at the end of the day, what you attract into your life is equal to the value you give out. Giving value to others in a way that also gives me what I value is the way to bring abundance into my life. If I am serving someone else simply for a paycheck, it is not serving me. Unless the work I am doing is nourishing to my soul or fulfilling my purpose in some way, I will eventually lose interest if it is only for money. Money is a byproduct of giving value. It is not the reason we give. If we can see a gift inside a person and invite them to show up in service to us in that way, we are not only serving ourselves, we are serving them. They are paid because they serve in a way they are gifted, but it is not in money. Their paycheck is using and strengthening their talents and gifts. We are creating a space for them to serve in their talent. The highest compliment and opportunity you can give a person is a space to be useful in a way that feels equally beneficial for them. In this type of environment, the motivation to do a good job is ever present. They are motivated by love, not fear, and it is a love for themselves, not for building someone else's empire. Holding a paycheck or position over someone's head is fear motivation, and it will only work in the short term. Even expecting someone to show up to work in their fullest, most gifted capacity for your benefit becomes a joy for them when they are equally benefited. And that is why after just a few days of contemplation of this new gateway, I changed the name from the Gateway of Leverage to the Gateway of Charity. Charity is the pure love of Christ. Or in other words, charity is seeing another through Christ's eyes. Christ was really good at seeing someone in their purest, most perfect form and inviting them to live up to it. If we are truly being charitable, we wouldn't hire someone because they needed a job. The only reason we would hire someone is because they can bring something more to our organization and our dreams than we currently can do without them. This perpetuates the cycle of abundance that we have already learned through the Gateway of Abundance. Inviting others to give and serve in the way they are gifted perpetuates the cycle of abundance for themselves as well as for us. We are leveraging their skills for our benefit as well as theirs because we have identified a need we have and we have seen that they can fill it. We have seen how they can increase synergistically the outcome of our goals. And we want the shortest gestation period possible, so they are critical to our fastest, most efficient, positive outcome. If I'm not digging deep within my soul and finding the very best I'm capable of giving, I'm not fully participating in the Gateway of Abundance for myself. At the same time, I'm limiting the amount of value I can receive in return. I can only expect a return of what I'm giving out. If I'm expecting the best of those I invite into my service, it is imperative that I am giving my best. The old saying, "Do as I say, not as I do," doesn't sit well when inviting others in to serve us in creating a synergistic result. Finding my own gifts and expressing myself fully through them while inviting others who are gifted in ways I am not to stand fully in their gifts as we create together is the most authentic way to experience and invite others to begin understanding the Gateway of Charity. When I first started employing the Gateway of Charity in my life, I would create leverage by finding people who were good at things I wasn't particularly good at. I would employ their talents and utilize their skills, and together we could work synergistically to accomplish tasks that were far beyond our own limited abilities. We worked together on my business, projects, and dreams. I was actually giving them the opportunity to grow and realize their own full potential by providing a safe training ground where they could practice doing what they loved. When I came to this understanding that by inviting them to support me, I was helping them to feel fulfilled and happy, I finally understood that this form of human interaction and giving service and opportunities was simply loving in the highest way possible. I am working with others, seeing them in their highest and best selves, and inviting them to step up into their highest potential to create something wonderful for me. The creation of a community to accomplish a common goal, something that each member could not have accomplished alone, is synergistic, and it leverages the abilities of each member exponentially. This is the gateway of charity. When we allow others to share a piece of themselves in a common undertaking by bringing their lives' experiences and abilities to the job in a passionate way, we create an opportunity for real fulfillment for others and for ourselves. Think about a project you've worked on that was not very fun. The sharing of the burden with others, some who had greater ability or passion than you, and therefore a happier outlook on the tasks at hand, may have increased your level of satisfaction during the project. As you watch them enthusiastically throw their hearts into the work, you may have been motivated to give more than you originally desired to give. This is true in my experience. I have a dear great aunt who had a deep love for family history. Due to an eye disorder, she couldn't tell if a line was perfectly horizontal or slanted. She hired me when I was 15 years old to typeset and place photos in a huge book she created about our family. Prior to this summer job, you couldn't have paid me to do family history. That was for old people. But in working with her, seeing her enthusiastic dedication to the work and experiencing firsthand the spiritual connection she felt with our ancestors, I grew to love not only my ancestors as real people, but I also grew to love family history as well. I offered my young, sharp eyes. She offered her expertise and knowledge of family history. Together, we fulfilled a life mission for her, and I found greater joy and fulfillment as I became part of her mission. An additional aspect of the Gateway of Charity is allowing others to share the burdens of the common task. As we distribute the weight of the burden, we find that there are no catastrophic failures for the whole. It is in the mutual support and sharing of opportunities and burdens that humans grow both individually and together. This is most likely why people bond during a natural disaster. We can manufacture that kind of environment on purpose every day in a business or in a family by giving our all and inviting others to do the same. An important part of the Gateway of Charity is learning to do more than just give of yourself. It is important to give yourself away. The Gateway of Abundance teaches that we each will receive equal or greater than what we give. To receive more, we must be willing to give more. Robert Kiyosaki, in his book Unfair Advantage, said, "Many people want to be paid more and do less. The concept of wanting to work less and be paid more ultimately makes everyone poorer, regardless of the amount of money they earn." Giving yourself away. We give ourselves away through our strengths and talents. We are not giving something we have. We are giving a piece of us. We are giving our hearts. When we do this, we invite others to do the same, empowering them to feel the benefits of abundance in their lives, giving in a way that also immediately pays them and giving them a sense of their innate worth. Once you start giving yourself away in an authentic way that also serves you, it gets under your skin. The innate need to love and serve others is such a strong desire in each of us that when we get a taste of it, we begin seeing the greatness in others everywhere. As a result, all aspects of our lives change, and we fill our lives and the lives of our family members and associates with charity, the highest form of love. There can be no greater gift. So in effect, you are asking the universe to reciprocate with the greatest gifts it has to offer you. But if I give myself away, won't I eventually have nothing left to give? That's the crazy part. The more authentically we give, the more positive energy we generate, the more fuel we add to our passions. The only time we become depleted is when we give unwillingly or in a way that feels inauthentic. Try this exercise next time you're asked to volunteer. Check in with yourself and ask these questions. Does this opportunity align with my purpose and my natural strengths? Am I moved by passion to jump at this opportunity? If the answer is no, write your name down anyway. Then see how you feel from that moment until the volunteering is over. Even beyond that, how many times do you feel regret for following through with the assignment? Just try it, and you will understand what I mean when I say that serving in the wrong way depletes you. Giving and receiving. It may not yet be completely obvious why the gateway of charity comes after the gateway of abundance. Let me help you see how this works in real life. In the gateway of abundance, we have a greater awareness of all the options and materials available to us. We begin to believe that whatever we choose is possible. It could become overwhelming if we see so many opportunities but ascertain that we are all alone in our journey. If we believe we have to figure it all out and do everything ourselves, it would not be humanly possible to accomplish everything required to reach even one goal, let alone take advantage of all the options available. Also, remember the new wisdom gathered concerning abundance. When we give in a way that serves us, we are already being paid. We are already receiving when we give in a way that fulfills the soul. These two principles alone, number one, seeing all the possibilities, and number two, choosing abundance by giving in a way that gives back to us, gives us reason enough to really want to invite others to use their gifts by becoming part of our talented team. Seeing others in their highest and best capacity and expecting them to show up fully in that way epitomizes the gateway of charity. The energy that this type of invitation carries with it is generosity, and people are naturally drawn to want to be a part of what we are building. Seeing the best in others. I'm sure that you've experienced this yourself. When others see the beauty and gifts in you, you naturally rise to their expectation. This is called the Pygmalion effect. Some call it self-fulfilling prophecy. High vibration words, thoughts, and beliefs attract high vibration energy. You cannot give out one thing and get something else in return. Just as the gateway of abundance invites good karma, our purely honest beliefs about someone's potential will invite them to be that. We can help people see their highest and best selves when we invite them to live at a higher level. But there is a specific way to do this that lovingly helps them rise to this elevated plane. The counterfeit of inviting others into their highest self would be to ask questions like, "What's wrong with you? You're smarter than that." This is not inviting people to show up in their divinity. A more authentic method encourages others to see themselves at their best and become the most that they can be. One way to do this is to share observations about their choices in a positive manner, possibly commenting with, "That's an interesting choice. That really is unlike you." This helps the person recognize that you see who they really are and gives them pause to look at why they did what they did and correct it if they choose. In some cases, the emotional investment we make in others can seem taxing at times. However, the gateway of abundance dictates that there is enough love in every situation. There is always enough. The gateway of charity lies just beyond the gateway of abundance. When you really understand and embrace abundance, you are on your way to living a life of charity. Does giving love mean that we must let others make their choices at the expense of ours? I will answer that question in a way that the gateway of charity has helped me understand it. Love also applies to me. I love myself so much that I receive only what serves me. Some relationships are abusive. The kind of giving that takes your own happiness out of the equation serves neither the person giving nor the person receiving. Therefore, there is no abundance created on either side. In these types of relationships, it is still important to love. We can continue to love others by seeing their greatness, whether they are displaying it or not. And we can continue to love ourselves enough to be in integrity with what we believe is in alignment with our divine spirit, our highest and best. Some choose to put walls around themselves, walls that would shut out the possibility of hurt and pain. These same walls, however, tend to also shut in. Creating a barrier gives some a feeling of safety against a possible confrontation. They set up a protective energetic field so that when people show up a certain way, they can keep the energy at arm's length. I choose a different tactic. Rather than boundaries, I set standards that align with my purpose and values. A standard, as a flag, can be seen for miles around. Before someone ever reaches me, they already know the person I am and what I will accept in my space. For example, if someone is looking for a scapegoat or victim, they will look elsewhere because my energy is not attracting them. On the other hand, if I carry around a belief that I will be hurt, I cannot stop hurt from coming. By setting a standard of respect for myself and expectation that others will respect me as well, the vibration that emanates from me is that of a confident, respected being, not a victim. Therefore, I never even have to interact with those who are seeking a victim. The law of attraction demands that we get what we ask for, so I choose my standards and act according to the standards I set. If I have a standard of respect, I give out nothing but respect, and I expect nothing but respect in return. The energetic vibration of respect emanates from me, so there is never a confrontation of disrespect where I am concerned. We can love others in the highest way, seeing them as God sees them, and we can maintain our own standards and love ourselves, even while others show up however they choose. Are you beginning to see that you have control? The Gateway of Charity shows us how to give in the way that serves us best, and it shows us how to receive from others in the way that serves them best. To receive from others is to leverage their skills for mutual advantage. Perfect partnerships will emerge as we think, believe, and act in perfect alignment with our own purposes. Natural energetic attractions will happen when we love and see ourselves and others beyond surface actions. Another aspect of the Gateway of Charity is that each of us is so unique in our purpose that there's no competition. I can invite you to participate in what I'm creating with no worry or fear that you will steal my clients or my ideas, because only I can be me in the way that I can be me. No other person can duplicate and use my gifts in quite the same way I do. As a result, I can give myself fully and freely without fear. Being paid for your gifts. This naturally leads to the discussion of being paid well for our products and services. Many feel that their gifts are so sacred or priceless that there really is no price they can ask. Therefore, many don't ask for any compensation. They feel it is a gift from God, and charging to share this gift doesn't honor Him or the gift. I invite you to look beyond money. I have found that money is a byproduct of fully giving myself and sharing my value. Since I am giving fully and freely, it seems natural to expect my client to reciprocate. But my client is not giving me money. He is giving me hours of work at his place of employment. In our world, money is an acceptable form of value exchange. It is the one thing we can all agree on where value is concerned. Money is a byproduct of my client showing up fully for his boss. Money is a byproduct of me showing up fully for my client. We agree on the value that is being exchanged for my gift, and we agree on the value that is being exchanged for his gift. We use money because it's simpler to say, that is worth $45, than that is worth 1.25 hours of work at your place of employment. We both know that 1.25 hours is worth $45. Time, energy, commitment to get up and go to work every morning, these are really what he is trading for what he is asking of me. He is actually giving me his talent and gift if he is working in a place that supports him living his purpose. This is the only fair exchange. Because we are giving our sacred gift, it is only fair that they are giving theirs. Every person in every culture uses a form of money to represent this exchange so it is more universal. Otherwise, we would be constantly evaluating how much a gift is worth. As has been expressed earlier, you cannot put a price on that. When one person gives more than they receive or receives more than they give, an unhealthy relationship develops. I worked for a doctor years ago and did everything for him except examine patients. Even then, I did much to prepare the patient so that when he entered the room, the patient already trusted him and felt completely secure in having him examine them. When I left my position in his office, it was awkward. The value I was giving was so far above the pay I was receiving that the relationship was out of balance. I had created a relationship where I was entitled to a tremendous amount of value, and I was being paid much less. So when I told him I was leaving, it felt like a servant rebelling against a master. I had created a form of bondage in the guise of relationship debt. This is never a happy situation. And it is nearly impossible to balance the budget when this type of debt is created. In order to avoid this, give freely, give fully, and ask and expect your clients and all relationships to do the same. And because money is our universal form of exchange, it is easiest to receive payment in cash. Therefore, as we offer ourselves and our gifts to others, we must ask the same of them in return. If we wish to assist someone else in becoming something greater than they currently are, we must see their greatness and expect them to express their greatness fully and freely. We lift ourselves in the act of lifting others, and vice versa. This is part of the reciprocity effect of abundance and charity. But always remember that the gateway of abundance, closely followed by the gateway of charity, begins with me. I must give in a way that immediately fuels and satisfies me. Furthermore, as I see a gift in another that supports me, I must be willing to invite them to give to me with the same wholehearted energy. Taking this a little closer to home, a breakdown in abundance results when I'm working at a job I hate or that doesn't fulfill me. There's a deficit of value. Remember, the money I give to others is not money. It is my time, my energy, and my gifts that I'm giving my employer. If I hate my job, in essence, I have no value to give. In fact, I have less than zero value to offer because I am wishing I could be somewhere else when I'm at work. The value with which I am paying for my goods and services is hate, regret, distraction, and wishful thinking. I may be providing value to my employer, but I am not taking any value with me when I leave each day. This scenario is the epitome of relationship debt, with me getting ripped off every day. And it's not the employer's fault. It is my choice to continue working there while knowing I am not receiving value. I choose my attitude about how that job is serving my purpose. I can either change my perspective and find some reason why this job does fulfill a part of my purpose, or at least a stepping stone, or I can change my job. Either choice will put me back into the flow of positive abundance. In a perfect world, everyone would give value in a way that fulfills their individual purpose, and others would give their value to receive what you have to offer. You can create this perfect world in your own life by only offering your time, energy, and gifts to causes that you love and value. To be in balance, it is absolutely imperative to your flow of abundance that you are paid for what you love and value. Giving ourselves away creates a space for receiving. Yet when we give in this way, there is no hole to fill. Immediately when we give, we are filled to overflowing, and the person who receives our gift is motivated to give fully as well. In this way, we can never outgive anyone. Abundance literally is added upon each time something is given away. Just as one seed creates thousands or millions of pieces of fruit over a lifetime, my one tiny gift to mankind produces a ripple effect that cannot be measured, diminished, or destroyed. Edward Everett Hale said, "I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something." Take action and invite with sincerity. I cannot wait for others to step in and begin the process. No one can gift me abundance or charity. I lead the way. The giving begins from within. I must initiate it. There is no abundance if I tell others they must give a little, or if I give half-heartedly. I start the process by giving myself completely in commitment and unprecedented free expression. Only then am I perceived as credible enough to invite others to support my cause. Now that you see that you are the catalyst for your own abundance, what are you waiting for? Who are you inspired to serve today? In what way can you serve that pays you at the same time? People will move if we prod them. Fear, hunger, poverty, threats, even enticing with rewards are all motivators to push someone along. But a rite of passage through a gateway is something quite different. It is a conscious choice. Are you ready to invite others in to help boost your abundance and theirs by leveraging their gifts? If the answer is yes, you are ready to walk through the gateway of charity. Being crystal clear of your own vision of the end result you are communicating is what garners trust from those who might choose in. Thus, your faith in your own cause is required. Even before you are absolutely sure of its successful outcome, faith invites the relationship capital that is needed to complete the picture. Your faith invites people to buy into your vision and to buy into you. Your willingness to share your vision with others demonstrates that you are not threatened or fearful of losing your competitive edge. This open invitation communicates abundance, and that is highly attractive. You radiate the energy of abundance because it is a skill you learned prior to the gateway of charity. The invitation to support my cause cannot be done with selfish motives or for accolades or social rewards. Giving my best and anticipating, but not demanding, that others will do the same is the free space where authentic creation takes place. By giving me the best of you, just as I am giving you the best of me, magic happens. More is created together than could be created individually. That is abundance. This works in any relationship or partnership: work, marriage, volunteer committee, parenting. This mutual service, freely given to one another, is the root of the gateway of charity. Because it is synergistic and produces phenomenal results, you may understand why I thought of this gateway as a means of leverage initially. When I more fully appreciated the aspect of what was being leveraged, I could only feel gratitude and respect of what was being offered, the person's highest and best as a resource for my purpose. The gateway of charity is more than just me leveraging them, as is so often the case in an employee-employer situation where someone is just working for money. They are also leveraging me as a setting where they can play in their passion. As I let them see their own reflection in my expression of gratitude for their worth and contribution, and as I see the same in the intensity they bring with their talents, a safe place for both of us to leap to the next level is established, and a synergistic partnership is the result. Sometimes it's hard to see our own greatness, even when reflected by another. For instance, I invariably see the potential in my mentoring clients long before they can see it in themselves. This is often because they don't believe that what they see reflected is true for them. They have too many experiences that have led them to believe they are not that great. The challenge, then, is to clear the fog of the limiting beliefs that are hindering their sight so they can see their greatness too. Convicting evidence of value. Allow me to share an example of the gateway of charity and the effect it can have on an otherwise doomed life. I facilitated a class every week sponsored by the local jail for a group of inmates who were currently on parole. These people were ordered by the court to check in once a week for a drug test and to attend my class each Monday as part of their rehabilitation. I learned quickly as I interacted with the students that they had learned to protect themselves while in jail or possibly in their home environment prior to jail by not displaying any weakness or vulnerability. Most weeks, a new group of individuals would come in, making a conscious effort not to look anyone in the eye, not divulging any information other than the required, and definitely not participating by sharing their innermost thoughts and feelings. One young man sat in the back of the classroom with his chair tipped back against the wall and his hat pulled down, shadowing his eyes. At first, he just appeared to be present in body only and otherwise wished to be somewhere else entirely. However, he eventually began to join in the conversations, offering comments from his seat in the back. He rarely tipped his hat back, and many times it was difficult to even know who had spoken because he spoke from under the bill of his hat. I believe that at the time he didn't want to admit to himself or let on to others that he was that interested in improving his life by incorporating the skills we were discussing. But his comments were reflecting the principles I was teaching, and I could tell that he was trying to incorporate the principles into his broken life. It was apparent that it was hard for him to believe that the truths he was learning could actually apply to him. I perceived that he was actually developing a substantial understanding of the precepts. His comments betrayed a deeper interest than he let on. I could tell that this young man felt alone and that there was little support in the world for him or someone like him, as I once heard him say. Although he didn't specifically ask, he was crying out for help. I wasn't sure that he was feeling safe enough in class to open up with his feelings. So after a few weeks, I approached him and asked if he could remain after class for a while. He explained he could stay until it was time for him to leave for his job about 40 minutes after class. For the next several weeks, until his sentence had been served, we could be found after class sitting in a couple of chairs in the hall across from the security guard's office. We spent time talking about his life, how he was a great dad, how he was a sensitive and kind person, and how he was successful at many things. As we discussed the true principles he was learning, I helped him apply them to his situation. He was always quick to produce, quote, evidence supporting that these principles just weren't true for his life. Although he believed the principles were true and helpful generally, for every point, he would provide evidence how it was not applicable to him. For instance, as we discussed being open and bringing integrity into one's life, he said, yes, but the fact is that I can't be trusted. I'm just not a trustworthy guy. I would ask him if he wanted to become trustworthy, and he would reply, yes, but that's not possible. The yes, but would often include examples of how his wife is justified in not trusting him. He would quickly follow that up with a list of things he had done that prove he was not trustworthy. These reasons were his evidence of why the principles are true, but they just don't apply in his life specifically. To him, he simply could not be trusted, whether he wanted to be trustworthy or not. With each new principle we would discuss, he would share his yes, but and present his evidence, trying to convince me that the evidence convicted him, and he just could not benefit from the otherwise true principle. How can an otherwise sensitive, kind, and caring individual who desires a positive life experience come to the point of believing that absolute truths simply do not apply to them? This type of resistance to improvement is often rooted in early failures, which has shaped the person and produced a distorted perception of oneself. It was certainly a stumbling block in this young man's case. In those formative years, a mistake can lead to a thoughtless rebuke, which leads to a self-assigned label, which leads to a lifetime of yes, but statements like, yes, but I can never be sober or trusted or loved. I probed for times in this man's life when he had acted in a trustworthy manner. Although he could recite them to me, these examples were the exception to the rule in his mind, not indicative of his true character. If I asked if there was anyone who did trust him, he would say, yes, but that person just doesn't know the real me. In other words, if that person had just known all of the evidence against him, that person would not trust him. As the weeks and days counted down to his release, I felt a strong desire to at least crack the door and let a tiny bit of light into his understanding that the principles we had been discussing were not only truths for others, but truths for him as well. In a moment of compassion, I felt a strong desire to connect with this young man heart to heart. I looked him squarely in the eyes and shared from my heart the greatness I saw in him. I reflected back to him all the intuitive thoughts that had come to me in my weeks of listening to him and hearing his desire beneath the words. He wanted to know he was worthy of love. As I spoke words of light to him, I saw the light flicker to life in his own eyes. Doubt crept in almost immediately, but there was a moment of trust. He didn't say the words, yes, but. Instead, he listened, he heard, he received. I know the power of a light received. Once ignited, light is hard to extinguish. I may not be the ultimate recipient of the value he can now give as a result of the value he received in our conversations, but I know that love is being perpetuated somewhere because I walked with him through the gateway of charity and was willing to give to him in a way that also paid me. And the beautiful result is that because I was willing to give my whole self away, he was open to receive in a way that paid him. I know that in some way, eventually, I will receive equal or greater value because of the effort I put forth in those hallway conversations, especially the one where I spoke words of light to a man searching for love. The transformative power of words. Here we begin to see the power of words, the words we speak to ourselves, the words we speak to others, and the words that others speak over us. Words carry with them the power of life and death. Our attitudes about ourselves and our lives have a tremendous impact on us, and the words we use transform our lives quite literally. Remember my heart attack? I had spoken and journaled the words half-hearted attempt so often that I literally spoke it into existence. The bottom part of my heart physically shut down. Little did I know the consequences of speaking words over myself. By not confronting the truth, even though I was oblivious to the power within my words, I was creating a new truth for myself, a truth of living a half-hearted life and eventually finding myself in the ER with a half-functioning heart. I had pronounced the sentence of a heart split in two. What do you think of the power of words now? What self-fulfilling prophecy are you inviting into your future? We need to guard closely the words we use at all times when speaking about ourselves, our associates, and especially our children. Children see us as the authority on everything. Words that escape our lips are doctrine to them and are received as truth regardless of the intent when they were spoken. Let me relate an experience I had with a woman whom I will refer to as Barbie. I call her Barbie because she related how she felt her husband looked at her as a Barbie doll, a trophy wife. When I met with her, she shared her story of health problems, which included a wound that simply appeared one day in the skin of her upper abdomen just below her heart. As of the date I met her, she had endured 22 surgeries and skin grafts attempting to close the wound. The skin grafts often would not take. If the skin graft was successful, the skin around the graft would reject it and it would soon peel off. This was a very painful and frustrating situation for her. The pain medicine and other medications prescribed to help her condition caused rapid weight gain. Combine that with the open wound and scars from skin grafts, and it is understandable to see that her otherwise sexy and attractive body had changed significantly. She painfully revealed to me that her husband spoke harshly to her and physically rejected her because she was no longer the trophy wife, the Barbie doll he wanted. Many limiting beliefs about herself were revealed in our first session together that could be summed up in the phrase, "I'm not worthy." It was interesting to find that a memory of her parents seemed to be at the root of this belief. The words that inadvertently came out of her mouth as we delved deeper into this memory told the whole story. Her perception that her parents didn't care about her and that she was powerless to change her circumstances produced words like, "It hurts," "It has left a scar," and predictably, "It's like an open wound that won't heal." There are really no surprises if we're paying attention. Life brings us exactly what we ask for. All we have to do is speak aloud the hurtful thoughts and emotions that we're hiding inside to know exactly what we are literally creating. In many ways, we get to choose our circumstances. The physical manifestation of our thoughts and beliefs become a huge spotlight on what needs to change. The universe is literal. I learned this as I looked for the beliefs behind a thickening to the core of my own body. Regardless of how I ate or how much I exercised, I just kept feeling heavy in my waist area. On investigation, I discovered a belief about not wanting to waste things. Food, gifts that others had put personal effort into making by hand, furniture that was still good but I didn't have a place for. The list goes on and on. Waste, W-A-S-T-E, waste, W-A-I-S-T. The universe didn't distinguish between the two. I was holding on to things that really should be wasted, thrown in the wastebasket, and my waste was no exception. When I discovered the limiting beliefs that I had to hold on to things that should be wasted, miraculously, my digestive system began working properly and it felt all right to let go of waste within my body. We don't get to choose how the universe brings us what we ask for, but we do get to choose what we ask for. In fact, I encourage you to try it for yourself right now. Pick an experience that happened recently, even today, where you were annoyed or upset by what someone else did or said. Focus on it and identify what your overwhelming thought was about that person or about you in that moment. Does the statement start with, he should, or I should, or something else as equally judgmental? That is perfect. Follow the steps to your permission process. When you have crafted some new beliefs that allow you to create a different outcome, post them somewhere you can read them often. Put all your faith into these new beliefs and consciously look for evidence that they are already true. Then watch as your experience completely transforms. Remember, the universe will bring your outcome in one of three ways. Number one, the universe may bring you a different outcome in the form of the person being removed from your life. Perhaps they get transferred to a different department at work or they move to a different state. Number two, the universe may bring you a different outcome in the form of the person changing how they act to align with what you now believe about them or yourself. Perhaps they attend a seminar on unconditional love and begin seeing you as a compassionate person who is only trying to help, and in the process, they express more gratitude. Number three, the universe may bring you a different outcome in the form of the person staying completely the same, but it doesn't bother you anymore. Perhaps you begin to see that only you are bothered by the dirty dishes and you decide that you really like to keep the kitchen clean yourself, so you don't expect them to do it anymore. Evidence that facilitates freedom. Often, people tend to put too much value on past experiences. Although it is true that we learn from the past, especially our own past experiences, we still frequently wake up each morning enslaved by what happened yesterday. If we are not willing to begin anew each day, our yesterdays will imprison our present. Some clients tell me about their past mistakes, sometimes from decades earlier, and they explain that those mistakes are why today went poorly. They tell me about a problem they had last year and tell me that is why they are disqualified from taking any of the leaps of faith they desire and why they are prohibited from living at any level of happiness and fulfillment. On the other hand, other clients surround themselves with trophies they won last year or 20 years ago and tell me that this was the pinnacle of their lives. They hold on to this success and let it block further progress. Just like those with mistakes, those who are clinging to past successes are also unable to move forward and become more. They are likewise being enslaved by the past, unable to fully live in the present moment. What I do with both groups of people is ask them to broaden the experience they see, to stop being so selective in presenting their evidence. At least stop cherry-picking evidence from the past that proves they don't measure up. It doesn't really matter what happened yesterday anyway, because today is a new day. Each day starts with a new beginning, a new dawn. Dawn. What a wonderful, predictable space and time. Have you ever made a trek to a special place in the dark so that you could witness the dawn deliberately? What is the enticement for having this type of experience? A turning point for me comes to mind with this question. I had a life-altering decision to make. I chose a favorite lakefront cabin for my place of meditation. I arose before the sun and dressed in a soft, cozy pullover sweater, warming me against the late September weather. The morning was silent as all other beachgoers had already locked up after the final summer fling in preparation for colder temperatures. The lake was all but abandoned by everyone. Only the wildlife remained. I went to the shed to select a lightweight, comfy chair in preparation for an extensive, connective moment with nature. I walked the quarter mile or so of beach before finally arriving at the water's edge. There was no breeze this particular morning. As I tiptoed through a shallow pool and selected the perfect sandbar to set up my chair, I felt tremendous gratitude for the silence. The water was a mirror of the sky, liquid glass. As the light gently stretched forth on the distant horizon, I was struck by my inability to distinguish the water from the sky. Both were still, the perfect reflection of color. Emotion overwhelmed me, and my pen flew across the page as I poured out my heart on paper. What began as longhand script became bullet points of ideas, pros and cons, random thoughts that were somehow connected. With no judgment of how it should look or where the destination lay, I continued to write. In the distant trees behind me, I heard birds begin to burst forth in song, and then I watched the sun break between sky and sea. And then came a simultaneous brightness of understanding. The clarity of my impending choice was as definitive as the horizon now before me. Where before there had been indistinguishable lines, the same shade of blue from my feet to eternity, I now saw the outline of small ripples in the shimmering water. Dawn, the beginning of all possibilities. The first words of creation were, "Let there be light." The welcome light of morning after a distressing night of darkness. Figuratively and literally, this is the dawn. The quiet, calm light that brings a peace that defies all chaos, sometimes present in darkness. A new beginning. This is the dawn. A leap of faith taken in a new direction can sometimes feel like leaping into the dark, but I submit that the opposite is actually true. When we take that first step into the unknown, we are truly leaping from the dark into the earliest light of dawn, defying the darkness, reaching towards a new beginning. A practice that has served me is to pour out my heart every night in gratitude and let the Lord fill my heart up every morning with inspired next steps. If we can learn to do that, to hit the reset button every night and then to start life over every morning, just as God does with the new dawn, then we can begin to understand that today does not need to be influenced negatively by yesterday or last year. Looking to the past does have its place, but we need to be selective in how we let the past influence us. It serves us to look backwards to find evidence of the good, to find proof that we do measure up. It also serves to look backwards to find the root of a limiting belief when we have the intention of changing it. The past holds evidence that we are worthy of great things in our lives. After a breakthrough, I ask clients to focus on the positive evidences in their lives that prove the new belief is actually more true than the old limiting belief they were holding on to. Frequently, my clients are able to find strong reminders of the truth of their good choices in no time at all. When examined in the light of dawn, those evidences are more true than the negative ones they had more readily believed just moments before. The past holds evidence of all truth. We just have to look for evidence of the truth, not the lies from our limiting beliefs. My parolee student from my earlier example was able to look deeply in his heart and find overwhelming evidence of his trustworthiness. He, who was so quick to marshal evidence of his untrustworthy nature, when prompted, began seeing himself in that new light of trust. He looked to the past to find proof of a new, more empowering belief, and he made a commitment to become that trustworthy person. The practice of seeking evidence can be helpful in finding courage to leap to each new level. For instance, a person who is having trouble letting go of past experiences of procrastination or sabotaging his success can visualize the dawn of a new way of being. A farmer goes to all the trouble of preparing his soil, fertilizing and planting seeds, watering and weeding, without knowing for sure that his crops will grow or that he will be able to harvest them several months later. After all of his work and investment, he doesn't know for sure that he will be able to sell his crops for money to support his family. Crops often fail. Many times, nature creates an interrupt in the crop growing process that creates an impossibility for success. Why then does a farmer go to all of the trouble and expense if he knows there's no guarantee that his crops will succeed? We could ask the same question about any business person. Businesses fail, yet millions of people start up new businesses every year. They invest their money, their reputation, their security, and their time. Why would they do that if there's a chance they will fail? The question can be answered in one word: belief. When we interrupt our pattern of thought long enough to notice all the evidence in our lives that we are smart, trustworthy, industrious, honest, thrifty, wise, etc., we have an easier time envisioning ourselves as the person we wish to become and the life we wish to live. When the way we are living presently is no longer enough, as faith-filled beings, we begin to formulate a vision of what's next. We envision what it will take to get to that next level. Each new level is a new dawn, a welcome light, a peace and calm, a beginning of all possibilities. The next gateway, the gateway of prosperity, will help you understand when it's time to move from one level to the next. When I'm mentoring someone who resists seeing the evidence of his abilities and instead focuses on evidence that he can't accomplish something, I ask him to question his evidence. Questions like, is that absolutely true? Is that a universal truth? Does it apply to every person on the planet? These questions help him to look at facts rather than false beliefs. He'll then tell me about people and instances where it hasn't been that way. I think, yes, a chink in the armor of a long-standing and strong yet untrue belief. Well then, I'll say, it's not an absolute truth, it's just something that you've chosen to believe. It's not a truth, but a belief, and by the evidence of the examples you just gave me, it's a false belief. Then I'll take the opportunity to expound on the evidence proving the new, somewhat foreign, true principle. We can add to the truth of the new belief by checking to see if this has been useful to others. The more he expands his understanding that the principle actually works, at least for others who have used it, the more he's open to find evidence in his own life as well. I teach my clients to seek evidence that the opposite of their limiting belief is not only true, but that it can teach them that what they really wish they could believe is true right now. Let me give you an example. If the belief is, I can't trust myself, I ask him if he can trust himself to eat when he's hungry, bathe when he is stinky, put the right shoe on the right foot, etc. If he can trust himself in the most minute way, he can honestly say, I trust myself, and believe it. As soon as he can believe something new, he liberates himself to begin creating something new. He is no longer enslaved by experiences of the past, which he has allowed to keep himself from moving forward. New possibilities and opportunities begin to open for him, and he begins to lay a new foundation by envisioning his new level of serving in his own unique way. What is truth? As we're talking about belief and truth, it's important to recognize that the only thing there is that is worth believing in or trusting is truth. Yet in today's world, the simple concept of truth has become clouded with confusing half-truths and misconceptions. So before we go on, I want you to fully understand the simple yet profound truth about truth. I've talked a lot about beliefs, my truths or your truths, and the highest truth. Let's make sure we understand these definitions for each of these. What's the difference between a belief and a truth? If someone believes something, it is true for that person because they have decided it is true. To reach our full potential, we must seek and align with the highest truths, which are the truths that we all agree are true. An example of highest truth is gravity pulling objects towards the earth. So if someone is operating under their truth, a belief that is being honored as an absolute but isn't really because it applies only to them, and if it is really not serving them to believe it, then I sometimes ask, is that absolutely true for everyone? If the answer is no, it isn't absolutely true for everyone, then they can see that their truth is merely a belief, usually a limiting belief. As such, they can choose a new belief. They may choose to keep the limiting belief, but now they know it is a conscious choice to keep believing and not a situation that they have no control over. Here's an example of one of my old limiting beliefs. While on a certain business trip, the thought came to me, the second night in a hotel while I'm traveling, I never sleep quite as well. In that moment, I heard myself think the belief, and I immediately chose to challenge the thought. I stopped and asked myself if my statement was absolutely true for everyone. Of course it wasn't. Many people stay in hotels and sleep soundly the second night of their stay. I asked myself, do I want that to be true for me? The answer was, of course not. I wanted to get a good night's sleep on night number 2 as well. Based on my response, I chalked it up as a mere belief. Even though I had formerly accepted it as truth, putting it to the test now and exposing it to the light of universality, I realized it was not true. And guess what? The outcome of my new belief, I sleep soundly wherever I am, was that my second night was as peaceful and restful as the first. Here's another truth that I had adopted. Brushing my teeth after I eat is a good habit. As I inspected it and tested it against the standard of universality, I decided that it is true for just about everyone. Because it works for me as well, I chose to accept it as one of my truths that is close to a universal truth, even though it may not be true for everyone. I know there are some who will not accept this belief as an absolute truth for them, so I am not planning to teach this in one of my books. But if someone asked me about good hygiene practices, I would probably share this as something that is my truth. Once I accept the truth of it, I don't have to make another decision about it when I eat next time. It's already been accepted as a truth, so my body and mind honor it. It feels weird if I don't follow through once it is an accepted truth. Our bodies and minds level up with our belief system. When we accept something as truth, good or not so good, we naturally align with it. It feels weird if we do something that goes against any of our beliefs. We want to be in integrity. That is the science behind choosing a new belief and having evidence naturally start showing up to support the new belief. The end result of these changes is living a life constantly aligned with the highest truth we currently understand. Every change starts with choosing to have a different outcome. Then we choose a new belief that allows us to experience this new outcome. Then we see evidences proving our belief as truth. When we fully adopt the new belief as truth, we don't have to make daily decisions or read daily affirmations anymore. It just is. Love creates synergy. Most people achieve a certain level of success on their own without having ever heard about the 7 gateways and without mentoring. They rise to what they feel is expected of them or what they expect of themselves. If they are less ambitious than that, then they rise to what they think is acceptable in our society or their family unit. A few people find a way to grow simply out of love for themselves. Without an earthbound mentor to talk with and receive feedback from, and without the synergy of working with others around them, the process can be tedious, long, and wrought with painful cycles and lessons. That's why the gateway of charity is so crucial. When we work together in our gifted capacity, the creation period is shortened and the impact is broadened. Let me explain how I have embodied the gateway of charity as a final summary to this chapter. I invite people to show up, to be their full, authentic, best, true selves. I give to them all that I have and all that I am, and I invite them to do the same. More than invite, I anticipate or even expect it from them. Expecting integrity of character and action is the greatest gift I can give them. Anything less or more would not be in alignment. This invitation to be a certain way is only offered because I see who they are, and I know they can see me as clearly as I can see them. Even if I am trying to hide something, I will be seen because we are mirrors for each other. Therefore, there are no secrets. I'm showing up in full clarity, and so are you. You and I are communicating heart to heart, soul to soul, whether we know it or not. My friend who was on parole thought he was hiding. In reality, there are no masks. If I invite you to partner with me in my creation, it is because of who you are. Whether you are consistently living or being that or not, there is no pretending to try to do our best. Energetic bonds are formed with each other based on what we know about the gifts we each possess. An energetic contract has fine print that reads, "Show me who you are. Show me the best you can be, and I will do the same." This invitation we extend gives others permission to become who they really want to be. My intention and desire is to see you for who you really are, whether you have realized your potential yet or not. I seek to see the highest and best form of you and invite you to be that person. I invite you by letting you see that version of you reflected in my eyes. This process creates a safe place to try your wings in a way that you may have never dared or trusted before. I visited Machu Picchu in Peru recently and was inspired by the obvious synergy that was present in the city's glory days. Everything pointed to leaders and community members alike utilizing the gateway of charity to establish the most successful civilization for every citizen. There was an appointment made for each person in how they served. Their appointment was based on interests, talents, and what benefited the community best. In the early days of America, there was a similar system. Each young man, when he came of age, selected a profession to study based on talents and interests. He even worked for free to attain a trade or profession that served the community. Likewise, the Gateway of Charity invites you to serve in a way that serves you and to invite others to serve you in a way that serves them. Your rite of passage through the Gateway of Charity. How aligned are you with charity? Evaluate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is completely aligned. Number 1. I'm willing to give my best to benefit others in a way that serves them and me equally. I expect equal value for the value I give. I leverage the genius of others to exponentially magnify my creation and to give them an opportunity to utilize their unique gifts. I am able to embrace many more opportunities because I am surrounded by talented people who are benefited by participating in my creations. I give my best and anticipate that others will do the same. Number 2, I step out of judgment and see others in their greatness. I invite them to show up that way, fully expecting that they are capable of it. I speak of them and to them as if I'm speaking directly to the purest form of them. I am conscious of my purest form as well and expect to be respected and honored in a way that aligns with my standard. Number 3, I recognize my greatness and the unique way that I serve. There is no competition because only I serve people in my genius way. I offer myself freely with no fear that others might rise above me. We are each acting within our own special gifts, and we need each other to reach the highest point in the fastest time and with the most powerful result. Number 4, I am aware of the transformative power of words. I am conscious of the words I speak to others. I only speak words that give life and growth, never words that are destructive or demeaning. I create with my words. I love myself so much that I only choose powerful, positive, and uplifting words for myself and others. I speak the greatness I see in others. I acknowledge the greatness I see in myself. Milepost 2, Gateway 4, the Gateway of Prosperity. Counterfeit. I believed in a false success that I was building on my terms. I thought I could create prosperity in my little corner and no one would notice. I felt like a change maker making a difference. However, I was out of alignment with the bigger creation that I was part of. In that work setting, I was not allowed to be me because my values didn't match the bigger vision of a controlling employer who saw everyone else as beneath him. I saw greatness in others. He saw disappointment and unimportance. He did not have charity. He could not see the potential within others as Christ does. Truth. True success and prosperity is achieved when there is a common goal or cause, and the perfect people from the Gateway of Charity who are in alignment with that goal or cause are invited to be a part of it. Ironically, success in a negative environment can be achieved when all are seeking the same outcome. However, the Gateway of Prosperity is reserved for those that exhibit charity by inviting all who choose to participate to give their all for their own positive benefit as well as for the benefit of the team. Anyone can achieve a level of monetary success. Please note, the work that was required in the first gateway of the pair, charity, gives us a new level of synthesizing information and integrating it to be able to recognize the truth within the following gateway, prosperity. Internalizing charity gives a new layer of depth that seeps into the heart and creates a spiritual, emotional, and physical bond between people that is necessary for genuine, lasting prosperity. My assessment. To me, authentic prosperity is not possible where charity does not exist. I am not creating authentic success because those in charge of the bigger picture are not in alignment with my methods of working with people. The counterfeit is that I can be prosperous in any environment by being me, giving my best and sincerely believing that I am making a difference. I think it's just a mindset. I can will it to be. The truth is that I can only be truly prosperous where I am giving my best to a creation that is in alignment with me. Because I have not learned how the gateway of charity leads to the gateway of prosperity, I can't figure out why my efforts constantly backfire. When I don't know about the truth versus the counterfeit in this situation, it becomes an inner game. I make the decision that I am a disappointment rather than my choice, my boss, my job is a disappointment. It is not my circumstances that are bad, it is me that is bad. Living in the counterfeit skews my view. I cannot receive a genuine outcome when I am putting effort toward a counterfeit belief. When you arrive at a place where faith, abundance, and charity exist together, you let go of the need to control. Since you don't need to control anything, the universe is free to work on manifesting your dreams without your interference. That is the moment you've arrived at the gateway of prosperity. Entering the gateway of prosperity. Understanding the truth of charity leads to genuine prosperity, the next gateway. In business, it is extremely important to grasp the truth of the gateway of charity. Author Walter Isaacson of the book Steve Jobs quotes Jobs as saying, "When you have really good people, you don't have to baby them. By expecting them to do great things, you can get them to do great things. A-plus players like to work together, and they don't like it if you tolerate B-grade work." Steve Jobs had charity. He looked within individuals for their talents and expected them to perform within their genius at the same level that he demanded of himself within his genius. Jobs also said, "It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do." Steve Jobs understood the value of finding individuals who resonated with the culture of his business and were gifted in a way that supported what he was creating. He allowed them to free flow within their genius. If you have been taking action as you've been reading, then you have successfully navigated 3 gateways on your way to a happy and fulfilling life. A happy and fulfilling life is where who you are and what you are creating is in alignment. You have probably experienced faith several times. Each time you have likely discovered that when you step out in faith, abundance awaits you outside your comfort zone. You have begun to see resources and information where you once only saw chaos. Then you have gathered those resources, some in the form of people with skills you need, and you have utilized charity to leverage their skills to your benefit. With all of these tools and knowledge in hand, I can only imagine the peace and prosperity you are now noticing in your life. I'm guessing that you also have begun manifesting the life of your dreams. The gateway of prosperity is a place in time. The moment you recognize the success that you have already manifested, you feel gratitude for it. You could even say that you have arrived. Even if you have not realized the full measure of your original vision, you most certainly can see how you have changed and become more prepared to receive what you are hoping to manifest in the near future. When you have become the person who aligns with what you are seeking, it is just a matter of time before it becomes a physical reality. Sometimes our vision has actually become a reality and we just don't see it. We get so focused on the path to get there and the habits that create it that we miss the celebration. As you work towards your gateway of prosperity, I would like to have you practice 4 steps. Number 1, check in daily to see how prosperity is already manifesting in your life. Number 2, express gratitude for every small evidence that proves you are already there. Number 3, continue to ask how your goal can be perfected and even more complete. Number 4, celebrate any milestone achieved, no matter how small. I remember when the gateway of prosperity happened upon me for a particular goal. It dawned on me as I focused on my vision board, I had been so focused on how the end result should look that I didn't realize my goal had already been achieved. when I really opened myself to see how my goal may already be a reality, I saw that it was actually done. As we have already learned, we put an order into the universe by the words we write and speak. The way I had written my intention had been manifested perfectly. I think it will help you to see what I mean if I share exactly what happened. A couple of years ago, I had an audacious dream to have a beach house, a mountain cabin, and an artist retreat in a desert community. I knew at the time it was far-fetched. I didn't have the money for such nonsense, but I had a very strong reason behind these desires, and I was willing to risk failure to get it. A goal, no matter how far-fetched, is worthy and righteous when the reason behind it supports your purpose. Many of my clients and friends who follow my work know that I have a desire to hold retreats in various settings to help people interrupt their destructive everyday cycles and reconnect with themselves, those they love, and God. I've held several of these retreats in different locations within 3 hours of my home. Each time, I rented a home to create a family feeling and to get away from society and the beliefs that are prevalent there. I like to create a fully immersive experience. I'm limited on the number of people I can serve hosting my events this way. Also, there are only so many retreats I can create in a year without a staff to support me. I'm tremendously grateful for how I've been able to serve in my current capacity, but I also know there is a higher and more impactful way I can serve. One of these ways is hosting my retreats in various locations around the United States with a full staff. After a couple of years, as you may imagine, my goal seemed so far away that one day I took it down off the wall. Even as I write this, I feel the heaviness in my heart that accompanied the decision that the time for this goal was just not now. I disobeyed one of the key rules of manifesting. I doubted. I didn't throw the pictures or the goal away. I knew that someday in the future this might possibly be a reality. I did doubt, though. I made the decision that having a mountain home, a beach home, and an artist retreat in the desert was not for me at this time. Then came the miracle. Soon after removing this goal from my vision board, I attended a family event. While there, one of my relatives reminded me that they had invited us to their desert home, complete with a private casita, several times, and we had never taken them up on it. My husband and I committed to visit by scheduling a 3-day retreat with them. I awoke the next morning with a vision of what had been manifested. I had a desert home. And then I saw clearly in my mind how all of my requests had already been granted. I have a friend in Southern California who lives about 10 minutes from the beach. She has a guest house and has invited me to come and stay with her at any time. Bam! My beach house was a reality. I have another friend who just moved to the East Coast and has invited me to visit anytime. She has a home with a separate guest quarters not far from the beach. Bam! Another beach house in another location across the country. I live in the Rocky Mountain area, and we have awesome mountain views and a great backyard filled with aspens and pines. In less than 5 minutes, I can be hiking up my favorite mountain trail and taking in all the joys and beauties of nature. Bam! My mountain home was already in existence. I ran to the file where I had stashed my dream and quickly slapped it back up on my vision board. Everything I had written had come into existence. And not only that, it had been mine for over a year. I just didn't notice. This vision really anchored in lessons I had learned before, but until that moment, I didn't have the physical evidence for the lessons to become part of who I was. Until this realization hit me, I had forgotten that faith is required until the imagined result becomes real. After this experience, doubting became harder and faith became easier. So is this the end of the retreat manifesting story? Hardly. As I write this section, I am sitting in my relative's beautiful desert home with a mountain view outside the dining room window. It is perfect, and it isn't enough. What I have is awesome. I am grateful and content with the access that I have to these beautiful retreat locations for me, but I know that there is more. I know that I can serve at an even higher level when I have a larger space that is mine to schedule as it is time to hold a retreat. So those homes are still on my vision board, and I have added more words to bring this into reality faster. My retreat locations enable me to teach and inspire those who are seeking to ascend to higher levels of integrity and freedom. I am open to the perfect locations becoming accessible for me, for my family, and for those I serve. I already know this is actually on the way because I have another friend who is building a mountain cabin and has already told me I can hold my retreats there when it is complete. This experience taught me so many things. First, I learned that when I put my order in, it is on its way. I also learned that it is super important to word my creation exactly the way I want it to look when it arrives. But I recognize the importance of being open for the universe to bring my order to me in whatever way is best for me in my state of preparation. Apparently, I am only ready and prepared to receive retreats so that my family and I can enjoy them. There must be some lessons I still need to learn before I can have access to a large retreat location for others to enjoy. While I'm waiting, I prepare myself for the inevitable. I become the person I need to be to receive this gift from the universe. I learned further that there is almost always a way in the present moment for me to believe that what I'm asking for already exists. Rather than just rattling off my affirmations and looking at the pictures with unseeing eyes, I have deliberately opened myself to believe and imagine that it is already a reality. This makes it easy to state my vision and goals in the present tense as if they already exist, because they do. And since they already exist, when I say I have a resort in a desert, a mountain, and a beach location, it feels true and it is true. Even the universe has to believe me because I believe it myself. The final lesson I learned is to never doubt. Always be ready to receive. Always have full faith that your goal is on its way, and be sure to notice when it shows up. Noticing when our goal shows up, even in the smallest of ways, is very important. When we recognize all the ways we have already been blessed with our goal or vision, we shorten the gestation period. With the goal of having retreat locations around the nation, I have been able to shorten the gestation time of receiving what I choose because I have allowed myself to see how it has been brought to me almost immediately in some small way. I am manifesting more easily and quickly than ever by doing this one thing, shifting my mind to see that what I want is already in my possession in some way. My idea of what my goal looked like is a little different than what it actually was, but the essence of what I was seeking was perfect. I had manifested a place of comfort and peace, a sanctuary that is separate from the daily cycles where we get stuck. This is a milestone. It is evidence that what I see in my imagination is on the way. I'm just not quite at the finish line. The multiplying effect of gratitude. Before I walked through the gateway of charity on my way to the gateway of prosperity, my journey was somewhat self-centered. I'm grateful that I have learned how much others benefit when I use charity to invite them to get behind my cause. We've heard that the lifeguard is the strongest swimmer at the beach. I appreciate the truth of that axiom. It helps us understand that in order to be in a position to help others achieve what they desire, we have to pull ourselves out of the mire. We have to have already become proficient, perhaps having even mastered a skill before we can teach others. This means we have to focus on our own gateway of prosperity before we can guide someone else through it. It seemed selfish to me that I would put so much focus on my own end result, but I realized how unselfish it truly is. I am giving my life to gather wisdom to share with others who may not find the way without help. Wisdom only comes through applied knowledge from personal experience. This leads us to the importance of gratitude. All creation begins and ends with gratitude. The gateway of prosperity beckons us to take stock regularly of everything good that we have in our lives. This includes possessions, people, love, opportunities, and even obstacles. The act of counting our blessings, even if a blessing looks like a curse, works in any circumstance. It is the key to attracting what we want. We usually think of gratitude as being thankful for someone or something that we love or that gives us joy, but there are certain circumstances that are not considered joyful by most people. What then? It is perfectly appropriate to have negative feelings about certain circumstances. It is normal. But what if I told you that finding gratitude in that circumstance stops its creation? How quickly could you find gratitude for your situation then? Believe it or not, you can feel negative emotions about an experience and be grateful for it at the same time. When I was teaching a weekly class for the local county jail, I asked how many in the class were grateful they had been sent to jail. Over half of the hands went up. The law of attraction dictates that we attract what we focus on. So if we focus on something that we don't want, it comes to us just as fast as something we focus on that we do want. Focusing on the good in a bad situation and feeling gratitude for it brings you more good things you can be grateful for. Negative feelings are certainly okay initially, but feeling gratitude eliminates the need for perpetual negative feelings about our circumstances. Another aspect of the law of attraction teaches that stating what we want in the present tense as if it already exists is required for successfully attracting new results. For example, let's say you have a husband who is super tight with money. There's plenty of money, but he questions everything you spend it on. You feel very angry at him about the money you finally get to spend. It escalates to the point that you wish you had your own money so you could spend it however you want. So much energy goes into that anger that your husband loses his job and you have to go to work to support the family. Now you have your own money. You're the sole moneymaker. That is Law of Attraction 101. You focused on having your own money to spend, and now all the money coming in is yours. However, your husband lost his job in the process. How can you find gratitude in that? Let's take the same scenario and insert gratitude. Your husband is super tight with money. There is plenty of it, but he questions everything you spend it on. You tell all your friends how grateful you are that your husband is such a great steward over money and feels responsible for every penny he brings into the home. You ask and receive with gratitude the money he offers. Additionally, you receive with gratitude the mentoring he offers about the value of investments. You never have to work a day in your life because your husband is so good at taking care of all the financial details. I know these are absolute scenarios and no circumstance is a perfect example. Can you see how a little piece of gratitude might be feeling grateful that you have money to feel angry about? Another source of gratitude could be noticing why the thing that bugs you, husband asks about every penny, is actually a source of gratitude. Husband is a great steward of money. Pure gratitude inspires us to love the circumstance rather than trying to find gratitude even though we feel anger. In the above example, the wife chose into gratitude about the way her husband handles money, the very thing she was angry about in the first place. Is that kind of gratitude hard? It can be, but it is also simple as choosing to find and feel gratitude. What have you been seeing as a thorn in your side that is actually a gift? If you can find one tiny bit of gratitude, it opens the door for a bad situation to become good. In our previous example, I could just as easily say, my husband is a good provider, as I could say, my husband is a tightwad. It is my choice. One choice leads to a feeling of financial security. The other leads to a feeling of financial scarcity. If I want a financially secure life with freedom when it comes to money, and I don't want to go to work myself, which decision opens the door to what I want the fastest? Find the gratitude, and you get what you want. Find the pain, and you get what you don't want. The trick about gratitude is that when you find it, you no longer need to learn the lessons of that circumstance. You can circumvent problems by finding gratitude in any and all situations, especially ones that are difficult and less than ideal. Try it. Gratitude is realizing that everything is a gift. It is acknowledging our total reliance on power outside of and often greater than ourselves. The plenitude of the universe is available to us, and we are free to harvest and shape it into anything we desire. Wow! Do you see how abundant and free we are to create? Gratitude is a key factor if we are to continue having access to this abundance and freedom. If abundance is so plentiful, then why do we hear of poverty in America with many Americans living at or below the poverty level? Why is this true in a country with so much opportunity, abundance, and prosperity? Some will say that we haven't done enough spending of our own collective resources on the impoverished to help them out of their circumstances, that we should redistribute the wealth. However, according to the Heritage Foundation, America has already spent over $20 trillion in the past 50 years to eradicate poverty, completely failing in the process. In fact, it seems that poverty expands exponentially for every dollar we spend to eliminate it. How can this be? It is because poverty is a mindset of not finding gratitude in what one has. I've traveled outside America where the most affluent people would be considered poor by our standards, yet they don't know they're poor. They have not adopted the beliefs of poverty. They are grateful and happy. In fact, while recently in Peru, I was struck by the absolute creativity the mountain people had in using all the resources around them to create a rainbow of colors for their beautifully dyed textiles. Even adding a gemstone to water with flowers created a different color. These people were poor by our standards, but they were rich in gratitude. Therefore, they lived happy, productive, prosperous lives. I actually had the thought while watching the women dyeing their llama wool, look how rich they are. They have everything. Every now and then we read the stories of those who somehow catch the vision to determine to step out in faith, find gratitude, invite charity, and finally land in prosperity, regardless of their circumstances. Sonia Carson comes to mind when I think of such people. She was a woman who struggled in poverty and was plagued with mental illness. She refused to see the world from that viewpoint, however, and despite her surroundings, she created opportunities for herself and her children. In the midst of her struggles, she imprinted on her children a sense of abundance and prosperity and helped them to take a leap from where they were to the next level, then the next, and the next. Many years later, one of her sons, Dr. Ben Carson, is a world-renowned brain surgeon, presidential candidate, and as of this writing, the nation's Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. His mother inspired him to think beyond his circumstances. And now he resides in prosperity and continues to bless lives through his talents and skills. I can only imagine the gratitude he has for his mother as a mentor in his early years. Gratitude is powerful. Every word in the English language has a vibration of energy. Lower vibration words are fear-based words like worry and anger. Love-based words like joy and happiness have higher vibrations. The energy and vibration of the word gratitude is proven to be one of the highest vibration words we are aware of. When we live in gratitude, we live at a higher vibration and energy. Remember, energy attracts like energy. If I'm speaking of feeling gratitude, then I'm inviting more high vibration experiences into my life. I feel so certain that inviting gratitude into our daily lives empowers us to create more of what we want in our lives that I do a daily gratitude call every morning with all of my clients who choose to join me. The call is also a podcast available on all the major podcast platforms. There are so many things to be grateful for. Clean running water from the faucet. Endless supplies of inexpensive, tasty foods regardless of the season. A day's wages to jump on a plane to fly 1,000 miles in 2 hours. Instant communication with friends and family around the world. An on-call doctor in case we have an emergency. Freedom to do almost anything we desire. The list is truly endless. The gateway of prosperity is built upon gratitude for what we have in the present moment. It is a celebration space where we can enjoy what we've created and have fun for our well-deserved results for a time. There's great abundance and opportunity all around us. So much is made available to us from the efforts of others and from the abundance of the earth. Prosperity extends beyond ourselves. Gratitude for all our gifts, blessings, and overwhelming prosperity turns our hearts to blessing and serving others. This is why it is so important, vital even, to reach and live in prosperity. When we see all we have, we notice that we have enough and more, plenty to give and serve those around us. Arriving at this realization that there is enough and to spare prepares us for the upcoming gateway of obedience. You will learn why in the next chapter. I've heard some say they don't want to make a lot of money. They only want enough for their needs. Initially, this sounds like a humble goal. While having enough for their needs is great for them, it's not so great for the rest of humanity. If we stop at serving ourselves, we become reliant on only what we can produce individually. We are each self-serving. If everything we do is just for ourselves, most of us will find it tedious to always have to go it alone, and at some point we'll lose the will to grow. Rather than being content with what we have, we become complacent with mediocrity. We are not made to serve only ourselves, but to lift and serve those around us. Think of the gateway of charity and how no one person can or should do everything alone. We need each other. Altruism and philanthropy are an essential part of a thriving society. If we can produce beyond our needs, we can become part of the flow of abundance for the greater good and help others with their dreams as well. Our example of gratitude and prosperity may be just the inspiration another needs to take their first leap of faith to build a better life for themselves. Or perhaps the little extra we have created beyond our own needs can help provide a stable foundation for someone who has not quite reached the gateway of prosperity for themselves. Enjoying prosperity can be just for you, or it can be extended to family, friends, communities, and even the world, perpetuating the flow and cycle of abundance. Prosperity alone is lonely. Experiencing it with those who helped you create it is fulfilling. We are all one. We all want the same things. In your place of prosperity, you may share your abundance with others by volunteering for worthy causes, serving in your church or service organization, or involving yourself politically. Prosperity could be a draw toward world travel, to do humanitarian work, or opening a daycare in your home to give kids a place they can feel love and acceptance outside of family. Regardless of your dream, there will be a moment in prosperity when you feel yourself desiring to reach out to others. The perfect way for you to bless and serve will hit your awareness, and you'll step into a higher place of giving than ever before along your journey. Remember, the Gateway of Abundance taught you that if the reason behind your service allows you to receive at the same time you are serving, whether monetarily or emotionally, it will perpetuate the flow of abundance and you will always be filled. There are so many successful people around the world who live in this place of prosperity and bless so many lives. I know a retired businessman who offers a mentoring program for disadvantaged students at a major university. He provides them with everything they need to go to college, study effectively, and make the right contacts in school and afterward. He has seen hundreds of youth from poor neighborhoods graduate from college, then begin great careers or start successful companies. Another business executive heads up the financial responsibilities of the Wounded Warrior Project, something he is extremely passionate about and a cause that blesses numerous lives. I have a friend and mentor, a billionaire, who anonymously donates millions of dollars every year for the benefit of his employees, community, and even strangers he feels inspired to bless. His gift is making money, and he has stepped beyond his own personal gateway of prosperity to help others in their journey in the way he knows best. I know of a married couple who not only donates money, but they also travel to Haiti and the Dominican Republic to build schools and playgrounds for disadvantaged children. They also donate huge amounts of international relief efforts for disasters all over the world. Another friend plans trips to Africa and gives 100% of the donations she collects to build schools and water systems for the communities there. Those who work with her pay their own way and donate time and supplies. Many others who are not necessarily wealthy offer their gift to the world in their own unique ways. Some run blogs, providing free research and useful or fun information for millions of people to use as they wish. Others write books and give them away online. Still more serve in their communities, giving of their time, talents, and money in ways that bless others and fulfill them. There is an increased level of service and giving when someone resides in prosperity and feels gratitude for all they've been given. What's holding you back? In a way, it was easier to envision my first leap of faith than it was to envision walking through the gateway of prosperity. In those early, innocent days of discovering my path of purpose, I was blissfully ignorant to what was really going to be required to reach my goal. After days and weeks of focused action, breaking through my limiting beliefs as they came up, gathering people, learning skills, doing the uncomfortable, I finally reached the threshold of the gateway of prosperity. I knew I was close to achieving a new level of influence, and honestly, it frightened me. The fear of success and the resulting spotlight was something I was not ready for. Working with a mentor in an attempt to embrace the next inevitable level, I allowed myself to see in my mind's eye the reality of the fear I was feeling. In this visualization, I saw a strap tied around my ankle. I saw myself standing on a mountaintop, above the clouds, on the edge of a bottomless abyss. I intuitively knew that what I wanted was across the expanse. I could see my landing point clearly, and yet I was tethered to the ground by the strap around my ankle. Even if I had been able to move, working up the courage to jump from the edge, the very real fear of missing my mark and free falling kept me rooted where I stood. Still, I felt the overwhelming desire to try. In my imagination, I fashioned a hatchet to chop through the strap. I worked desperately, but it was as if I were chopping through iron. It was impossible to free myself. As I struggled to break the strap that held me bound, a new thought came to me. The hatchet disappeared, and I calmly, deliberately bent down and simply untied the tether. I had the power to release myself all along. It was my own fear that was holding me bound. Once I was free of that fear, I instantaneously took courage. I, as myself, still didn't know if I was capable of landing safely across the deep and wide chasm before me. So I called upon my higher self. I asked the question, who would I be if I were fully committed? I was mesmerized as I watched myself transform into a sleek and powerful warrior with a keen instinct and courage of a majestic jungle cat. Without my conscious prompting, this beautiful creature took 3 giant steps backwards, then bolted forward and leapt from the edge. I literally felt physical wings unfold from my back and carry me easily to my destination. What holds you back from leaping across the void that separates you from your gateway of prosperity? What does the tether around your ankle, the reason why you can't, represent to you? Of course, our obstacles are imaginary, but we are greatly influenced by what we imagine to be true. Until we find the courage to jump, we will never feel our wings. Viktor E. Frankl, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, said, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." Since overcoming that fear, I continue to lead and place myself in the spotlight in order to share what I believe is my purpose, and I have found myself in the line of fire from those who are not on the same path as me. I have also found that I am given the words, the support, and the skills to rise above it. Can you trust that you are enough? Can you trust that you will always be enough, regardless of what comes as you find the courage to leap from the edge? Much of the evidence we choose to substantiate our fears is false. The evidence we see is biased because of the beliefs that we have adopted or because of something we perceive when we don't have all the facts. This is where the acronym false evidence appearing real adds clarity. Our lives are not endangered by speaking up among strangers at a party or any of the 100 things we may dread in life, yet we frequently fear circumstances like this. Entering the gateway of prosperity requires that we learn to quiet those false signals so we can see proof of our vision starting to manifest right now. We must exchange those beliefs and fears for the belief and anticipation of receiving something new. We must illuminate the dark places with the light of desire for a better life for us and for those we can serve once we arrive in our personal place of prosperity. We notice our fear, understand its false nature, and step beyond it. We draw courage from the innermost strength we possess, and we walk into the unknown with confidence and boldness to stake our claims in the place called prosperity. When a feeling of fear, in the guise of doubt, anxiety, worry, apprehension, etc., takes hold, ask the question, where's this fear coming from? Find the root, the tether that holds you bound, and ask if it is truth or belief. If it is a belief, and it most certainly is, change it. Use your permission process that you've learned. Perhaps your obstacles to your gateway of prosperity are fear-related, but you perceive them as something more tangible. Perhaps you're telling yourself, I'm not afraid, and I would do it if I could, but there is a real obstacle in my path, physically preventing me. In truth, aren't all leaps, by their very nature, physical obstacles? Whether real or envisioned, there is a chasm between us and where we want to be. That chasm must be navigated to arrive on the other side, to reach where we want to be. In real life, chasms can be leapt over if we get enough momentum and lift. And if it is physically impossible to leap over a chasm, then we can build a bridge or fly a helicopter over it. The same is true of the metaphorical chasms we must leap. At first, we may see what's on the other side of the chasm only partially. The full view of what awaits us on the other side will never be completely clear until we actually act, move, leap. I didn't know what it was like to have a home in a desert community until I slept a couple of nights there and enjoyed the surrounding beauty for myself. But that was only after I chose my dream to have a desert retreat. This aspect of believing before experiencing is one of the most difficult parts of each gateway. With each new gateway, faith and the belief that we are enough are required. Seeing it first in our minds, then overcoming the fear to leap into the prosperity of the real thing may be difficult, but it is only difficult in our fearful thinking. When I took all the necessary steps to prepare myself, I finally just had to allow myself to be fully committed. I trusted the gateway of faith and the gateway of abundance from my previous lessons. I believed that I would be given exactly what I needed and that I was enough. Even greater than the exhilaration of flying across that imaginary chasm, I recall the moment I landed on the other side of the chasm. I turned around and looked back to the edge where I had been fearfully rooted moments ago. To my astonishment, I could clearly see thousands of people standing on the other side, people who had been waiting for me to go first. I looked around at all of them and saw their fear replaced with hope. Suddenly, I was filled with an overwhelming desire to reach out and help them leap to where I was. I wanted them to live in prosperity too. I wanted them to come and be part of the community called prosperity. As soon as I found my footing in prosperity, I began devising ways to bring them across, to build a bridge for those who would follow. I believe that people who include everyone as possible outlets for their prosperity experience the highest level of abundance in their own lives and continue to grow beyond the gateway of prosperity. Living and serving for something higher than ourselves drives us forward and onward. Relaxing within prosperity longer than necessary is setting a stage for a new comfort zone. Even prosperity can become a mundane existence. If you haven't experienced real joy in your life recently, perhaps it's time to reach out and begin extending the range beyond your own personal prosperity. Perhaps it's time to move on to the next gateway. Your rite of passage through the gateway of prosperity. How aligned are you with prosperity? Evaluate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is completely aligned. Number 1. I experience a feeling of gratitude for all that has been created so far in my life. I am content that it is perfect, and I also see where improvements can be made. Number 2, I see evidence that I already have, even if in just a small way, everything I could ever want. I already see that it exists. It is just a matter of time before it is within my stewardship. Number 3, I love myself and others enough to build a solid foundation that extends beyond my own personal needs. As I move beyond survival, I am free to see all the ways I can serve and offer a hand to others. I love the idea of surrounding myself with a community of prosperity. Number 4, I allow the most courageous and powerful version of me to carry me through my fear. I choose beliefs that help me become prepared to arrive in my place of prosperity and to live there comfortably. I also keep my senses tuned to know when it is time to move on to the next gateway.